It's just an ideology that's only embraced by the criminal faction of our society.
Right. Well, for sure. They're going to sort of stay enemies because it's, like you said, it's cops' job to catch them. It's their job to not get caught.
Yeah.
So that's always going to be a disconnect. So since you say that, would it be a proposed solution for you to take the departments that are there now and actually segregate them into the communities where they're best matched? Because they're essentially, it's a step in the right direction.
Do that and remove the Black Police Officer Association and just have a police officer association. I think black police officers isolate themselves when they just strictly become part of the black POA.
Let me be a devil's advocate again. I love this, by the way, because I'm the advocate for the black guy. I love it. But you're giving credit to the majority. So let's say you've got 15% black guys in the department. You're giving the credit to the white majority to run the POA fairly. Is that what the expectation would have to be? That because I think the reason, I'll be honest with you, growing up, I never understood that either. It was like, why can't, this looks like separatist actions to me, but the more I grew to understand was we're not getting enough of people that understand our plight, and we're not getting enough of a voice in here. And so we're going to go over here, or at least have some kind of impact and an understanding amongst each other. It still has to eventually come together. It has to go the direction you're talking about. But is it too early to now say, look, let's put them all together, and then it's still going to be white dominant just because the populace is that way. So you're going to trust white cops to take care of the black cops in the same organization, give them the same opportunities and all that stuff. Is that something that you think could happen?
You did it. You have more empathy. You're more understanding. You wanted to serve your community. What's the difference?
Well, the difference is, without propping myself up, I think there's still plenty of white folk that have a lot of learning to do. And whether they be cops or anybody else, honestly, I think, I think some of the plight now is to just get some white people to actually acknowledge systemic racism exists. It has nothing to do with feel guilty or start talking about reparation or what. Just acknowledge, see it for what it is, and that still doesn't exist. You still have people that deny that there's still not a disadvantage, and you have no excuse. Just because every generation since slavery you've been kept in a poor neighborhood, you should be able to figure it out. It's a lot harder, but pull your bootstraps up and figure it out. That's fine, except when you don't change some of those systemic issues, then you're still going to be held down instead of left down. So, and I'm not challenging you, and this is just an opinion because I see white people still that have issues.
I'm sitting here trying to answer your questions, and I'm saying, no, you don't want to put all them black boys. No, you want to keep it separate for right now, rather than putting it together.
You have to. You're right. Eventually, our goal is no one would need a Hispanic Police Officers Association, a black police. They all exist for a reason.
I'm thinking about the issues now within the local department of the Fort Worth Police Department, and it's one of the issues.
It is one of the issues.
Yeah,
look,
it's one of the issues.
Even if a lot of the issues are not true, if the perception is that they exist, then people are going to respond according to what they perceive it to be.
Yeah.
So that means we got more work to do.
Yeah. So
and I think there's a lot of work.
I can't argue with you. I can't argue with you.
I'm just thankful I'm not familiar with the Fort Worth Police Department. That way I don't have to have an opinion in this. In this particular conversation.
We're talking about police departments in general.
Well, most people don't know that there is a race issue within most police departments. Most people don't know that.
Is there?
Well, because it's not overt. Yeah. It's the same thing as the systemic thing. It's ignorance that's just bred into. There are people that were white guys that will be disenchanted by the fact that a BPOA exists, and that already is just.
Or black police chief. There's some major cities where if there was a black police chief, that they would probably have a problem within their department. the department would change.
I'm conflicted.
There's some departments where if a Hispanic or Latin police chief came about, there probably would be some issues. So race it's a factor within our law enforcement.
And I think a lot of it, like I said, is kind of unsaid. It's just still, I think it's all ignorance, I think, on both sides, because I think we've moved in the right direction, but you can't see yourself grow in the mirror when you watch yourself every day. So if you see where we were at in the 40s and 50s and 60s and where we're at now, I think we're further along, but the issues that we have now are harder to see because we've taken care of all the overt, and hell, you brought this up the last time we talked, because people aren't out using the N-word like they used to flippantly and everything else. We've covered that. But does that cover how people think, or does that cover something that we've done in order to control the language that we use? I think it's a difference. You know, you're not controlling how people think just because they know it's going to be a faux pas to say it.
Yeah, ideologies can be hidden.
Which is one of the benefits of being overt, though, right? Is because you know what you're dealing with.
Exactly. I'm not saying it's wrong to say that's a bad thing to say, to use the N-word. A white guy can't use it. I agree with that. But at the same time, now it's the same way that gangs used to be. That gangs guys were getting picked up left and right, and they'd get ID'd because they got 5 deuce tattooed across their chest. So they stopped getting those tattoos because that was screwing them over. They'd get something else that was a little bit more cryptic or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cryptic.
you got it.
I'll be here all week thinking. No pun intended. But it was the same thing. So now it's almost.
So it's kind of like instead of saying no colors allowed, no blacks allowed, it says, the sign says no Michael Jordan tennis shoes, no baggy jeans, no oversized gold chains, no ball caps.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even some of those were moving in the right direction. Again, it's, cocaine or crack cocaine. Oh, crack cocaine's way worse because we need to take care of that epidemic, right?
Yeah.
So we've seen those types of things happen.
And even still, it's still a disparity. It's still, what, 60 to 1? Crack, cocaine.
Bro, they ain't got to worry about it as much as they got to worry about fentanyl now. So.
Yeah. So yeah, it's still a
whole
disparity.
nother monster.
I think everybody's worried about that.
Yeah.
Y'all got a whole nother monster on your hand with that fentanyl. So
I just think it's harder to see. I know we've digressed into that different issue, but I think that same cultural lack of understanding of one another is just as prevalent in law enforcement as is anywhere else, except law enforcement is held to a higher standard of accountability. It's like being a preacher or a police officer or whatever. You can't afford to be ignorant because you're held to a higher standard. You have a higher level of responsibility to not act off of some of those suppositions that you might have. So it's just a matter of, all it comes back to really is to understanding one another more. And that's why I think having the conversations and getting to the point where somebody can just say, look, I think I acknowledge that maybe I see now you brought it to light. Now I see how the system could kind of be working against you. Look, that's a start. It doesn't mean, again, nobody's trying to make you feel bad or say that you owned a slave or whatever. The people get so offended and so defensive about this. That's not where we're going with this. This is just trying to get us to a neutral position where we're starting on the same field in the same place on the field and then have a conversation.